October 9th, 2018. A camera in orbit over Ukraine scans the city of Kharkiv.
What we're looking at here is a pretty grim-looking industrial complex. Bit of a wasteland, frankly. It's not a very inviting place.
Yet lines of objects hidden between the desolate-looking buildings do invite attention.
Looking closer, you can start to see that these objects actually have some kind of a turret on them and some sort of gun.
These are tanks. These are armored fighting vehicles, and there are dozens and dozens of them.
Leaked photographs confirm that the image has captured a monstrous metal graveyard containing the rusting remains of hundreds of tanks.
You've got to ask yourself, why are there so many tanks just sitting there doing nothing? Tanks should be out fighting. This is just a huge tank park.
Martin Morgan studies the city's history for clues.
When I look into original records, I find that this is the old Kharkiv tank factory. This was the largest factory for the production of armored fighting vehicles during the old Soviet Union, and the birthplace of what was one of the greatest fighting machines of the 20th century.
That fighting machine is the T-34 tank.
The T-34 tank is one of the most powerful weapons that the Soviets wielded on the battlefields of the Second World War. It's a part of every battle, it's a part of every Soviet victory, and they're all made at Kharkiv.
The T-34's engine and tracks are built to handle mud and snow on the battlefields of the Eastern Front. What's more, it has a more powerful cannon and better armor than German tanks, but it's light enough to outpace them on the battlefield.
The T-34 is arguably the finest tank of the Second World War, because it is the best of both worlds. The Germans were scared as hell of this vehicle, and that speaks to just how effective the design really was.
The success of the T-34 forces the Nazis to deploy the massive 54-ton Tiger. In July 1943, vast numbers of Russian and Nazi tanks meet head-on at the Battle of Kursk.
About 5,000 tanks will come to this battle. So it's the biggest tank battle of all time, including up to today.
You have tanks just rolling towards each other, firing massive shells back and forth. I mean, it was probably one of the most incredible battles of World War II.
At the Battle of Kursk, the Russians incurred devastating losses, but the T-34s ultimately prevail. The Germans never recover from this defeat, and 2 years later the Soviets capture Berlin.
Kursk is one of the turning points that solidifies the final retreat and absolute rout of the Germans off of the Eastern Front.
Following the end of World War II, the Kharkiv tank factory continues to play a vital role in Soviet military strategy.
There are over 60,000 workers that are producing about 60 tanks a month at this facility during the height of the Cold War.
In 1991, the Soviet Union collapses, and countries like Ukraine gain their independence. Tanks stop rolling off the Kharkiv factory line, and its yards begin filling with mothballed relics of the country's communist past. Yet recent analysis has revealed renewed activity at the site.
When we look at satellite imagery, we can see that tanks are kind of coming and going from the facility.
It appears Ukraine has once again turned to the T-34 tank factory to help it repel a foreign threat.
These tanks could well be part of Ukraine's absolutely justified efforts to defend herself against Putin's aggression.
In 2014, Russian President Vladimir Putin orders his troops to invade Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula. This triggers an ongoing war which has claimed over 13,000 lives.
The attack that Russia mounts on the Crimea is forceful. They come in with aircraft, they come in with tanks, they come in with ground troops.
In a twist of fate, Russia is now fighting tanks from the very factory that helped it to defeat Hitler all those years ago.
This image is full of deep contemporary ironies because it makes you confront the way that the former Soviet Union crumbled, fell apart, and the awkward, intense new world that has been created in its aftermath.